What's going on, guys? DJ Cruz here. Welcome back. Another chapter, another episode here in the Atlantis Chronicles. Today I'm going to be looking at the drums. I haven't really gotten to that point in my project yet, but since I'm taking my time and going through it, and I've taken on some other projects along the way, things have slowed down a little bit in the production of my masterpiece. But I didn't want to drag out the Atlantis Chronicles for far too long to lose the continuity of it and so forth. So I'm going to do a quick little tutorial on the drums and how I'm using the drums with my projects for, particularly the Atlantis suite. I won't actually have an actual on-hand example yet. I will say, however, that I do have plans to do one song off the album that I'm going to do from beginning to end on camera, and you'll see like all the the drums put together, the guitars, the bass, the whole bit, as I'm setting it up and doing everything else. And I'll kind of do that as a sort of an addendum or like a bonus feature at the end. Of course, I'll have to do a bit of editing to kind of piece it all together. So that video might not technically be available till the album is almost done or completed or released. But look forward to that, because I do plan to do that, where you'll be able to see literally one song from beginning to end, done in its entirety. But anyway, so here we are. We're in Sonar right now, and I wanted to showcase Stephen Slate Drums 4. And by the way, Stephen Slate, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it for hooking us up with Stephen Slate Drums 4 for a giveaway. So if you haven't subscribed already, click the subscribe link down below to subscribe to my channel for this series and other things I have planned for the future. So, okay, here we are. We're inside Sonar, and I'm going to click up Stephen Slate Drums 4, and of course there's a number of different screens in the plugin, which is probably not any different than any other drum plugin, be it Superior Drummer or BFD 3, 2, 1, whichever, or Addictive Drums or whichever. So I mean, you've got your pick. Most of them will have a mixer where you can adjust your levels of various drums, and this of course is similar. Edit your drum, your instrument, where you can actually select a particular instrument, be it the kick or the snare drum, cymbal, pick whichever one you want, and you can sit there and add it dynamics, velocities, range. You can fine tune all the parameters of the actual drum itself, or cymbal, or hi-hat, or whatever, and then you can also use it. You can actually route it in the mixer whichever way you want it to go. You can also do that from the mixer as well. Like if you pull up the mixer here, you can select what channel you want to assign it to. And I will say, for the purposes of if you're just doing a demo, you can just leave everything to like whatever the main outputs are. Stereo left, stereo right, and a stereo drum mix would probably be fine. And that for like a quick demo, just a song idea, whatever, it's probably all you need, and it'll use less resources on your DAW. But for the purposes of actually recording an actual project, a CD, a collaboration or whatever, you're going to want to route all your drums to separate channels in the plugin, and then those channels in the plugin will then get routed to separate channels. Ideally, you could do it another way, but ideally you'd route them to separate channels in your DAW as well. If, for example, or you could bus them out to your DAW. And there's a whole different multitude of ways you can actually treat it, but suffice it to say, if you just mix everything down to just a stereo output, okay, then in your DAW, if you want to put some compression, the bass is out of control, you need to EQ the bass. Well, if you've got a stereo signal coming in to Sonar or Cubase or Pro Tools or whatever from your plugin, well, you can't add any EQ to the bass without affecting the snares and the cymbals and the toms and everything else, because it's all in a stereo mix all together. So what you're going to want to do is you want everything on a separate channel. For example, let me just load up a kit real quick, and looking at the kits real quick, you got various. The deluxe are basically the newly recorded, pristinely recorded drum kits that Stephen Slate did for Stephen Slate Drums 4. The SSD Classic are basically reiterations of the previous version, I guess it was 3 and 3.5, of the Stephen Slate Drums, what they call the mix ready kits. Those were drum kits already mixed, processed, and like ready to go. Drop them in your project, and they just sounded great right from the first bar. So they took a lot of those classic mix ready kits from the older version, and that's why they've got it in there as SSD Classic. They just kind of, you know, brought them over, cleaned them up some, gave it a nice little, you know, coat of wax or whatever, and, you know, rock and roll. But the newly recorded ones, you've got, you know, some rock ones here. And on the vintage, you've got like a Beatles type of, you know, like a Ringo Starr drum kit, and this is really cool. You got Zeppelin Classic Tight, and you got a modern Zeppelin. So basically, you've got like, if you want that Led Zeppelin sound, and I'm not a huge Led Zeppelin fan. I really am not. But the drums just rock. I mean, they're just really, really cool. So let's go ahead and go into the Classic. Plugin's going to load, and I'm just going to hit the and just test the, you know, the. Now, if you want to go, you know, edit the instrument, then this is just, of course, like I had mentioned before, you edit your velocities, your dynamics, whatever. Go into the mixer and you can route everything. See, you can see down here, by default, it just goes out to a stereo channel, okay? It's all going to go on to the same channel. So if you look in Sonar, as if you look over here under my Tom's channel, apparently that's where everything is routed. So you'll see everything coming in through a stereo channel. So let me just load up a groove here right quick. So you can see when that was playing, only one channel was going on the mixer in Sonar. But of course, if you looked at the mixer in, hold on, no, they don't show it. Cool. Because everything in the mixer here in Slate Drums is all routed all to one channel, into your DAW. So in case you want to break it all out, so you want to route them. And I'm not going to do it because it's actually a major pain in the behind to do it. So it's something you probably want to do once. And in the case of Sonar, I've actually got it as a preset, where I've actually got a drum set already programmed in, and it's already routed to different channels. So let me actually do that to show you. Nope. Go back to Kit. Under User Preset, I've got Atlantis in here. And this, I've got, you'll notice down over here, kick is going to out mono 9, snare's going to out mono 10, blah, blah, blah. And all the way on through, they all go to different outputs out of the Slate Drums plugin into Sonar, or into your DAW. So now let me go back in and go back to Grooves, and let me just go ahead and hit. Now if you look at the mixer here, or actually the little levels, let me pull the mixer up so you can actually see it. Let me move Slate Drums out of the way a little bit. Let's do a fill. Now you can see all the different drums that come in on different channels. So the drums now all come on the different channels through Sonar, through your DAW, once you route them all that way. Now if I wanted to stick compression or whatever on the toms, or EQ on the toms, there's too much overring or whatever, then you can do it in your DAW. If provided your drum plugin doesn't have any effects like built in, and the Slate Drums plugin really doesn't have any effects built in. You've got the mixer, where it lets you do the routing, and it will let you do levels and, you know, muting and solo and that sort of thing. So your mixer will have basically a channel for every single drum in your drum set, and then you'll actually have a room and an overhead. And those are really, really cool because that's where you get your ambient effects. So if I was to go ahead and actually play, let me go back to, there we go. Let me go back to a groove. Let me do a chorus. All right. Now I've soloed just one of the kick drums, which is the inside, and then there's the outside. So now you're just basically hearing the kick drum, Now I can solo. Now if I want, I can actually mute out the snare drum. So that mixer gives you some options if you're like tweaking stuff or whatever. You can actually adjust levels, mute stuff, solo stuff, whatever, as you're doing some tweaking. But then, like for example, like I said, Stephen Slate Drums doesn't have the effects built in, and in most cases, if you've got money tied up in plugins like Waves or Universal Audio, you're going to have some really really high quality plugins that you're going to want to use anyway. So you really don't want to be using computer resources or whatever on plugins plugins and effects from your plugin. You want to use the specific plugins for whatever, Waves or whichever. So let's see here. So look at the mixer here real quick, and you can adjust your pan as well, just left and right. Solo, mute, and you can adjust your fader, of course, lets you adjust your level. Let's say let's say the ride is just way too loud, it overpowers the rest of the drum kit. Then you can just go ahead and bring the ride symbol down. See, I've actually got this one lowered a little bit, so you can just bring it down so it's not as obtrusive or whatever in the mix, and overpower the other instruments. And then it'll be on its own fader in your software anyway, so that if you want to add effects to it, or gate on it or something, then you can always do it separately without affecting the other channels for the other parts of your drum set. Let's get into the grooves again, but now I'm actually not gonna. You've got. It comes, Stephen Slate Drums does come with its own groove library, and actually these are really, really nice in and of themselves. And they break it down by category, your library, your classic and deluxe. Then you've got category, like country, alternative, metal, whatever. Then parts of the song, and then they actually have the groove name. You could change to half tempo, double tempo, and you could turn it off. And this dynamics lets you basically turn the dynamics up to where the velocities are a little bit different, to where it doesn't sound like the same hit over and over again. So where like the drummer never hits the snare drum exactly the same strength twice, the same part of the hat. The same part of the snare drum head. Exactly at the same time twice in a row. It's always off a little bit, maybe not as hard or harder, whatever. So those variations, the ear will pick up on it. You might not notice it when you're listening to a song, but there are slight differences. Well, those slight differences are what tells our brain on a subconscious level that, oh, it's a human being playing. Or as opposed to like a drum machine, generally is the same sound. It's like boom, pa, and it's not like a robot because it's basically one snare sample, one bass drum sample, whatever, and it'll sound exactly the same every time with no difference in strength or volume or anything, and it's just mechanical or whatever. So, and that's with the whole machine gun thing or whatever. So this whole dynamics knob give you some changes in some of your velocities and stuff, and a little bit on the groove side too, to where you have a little bit of slippage in time one way or the other. That basically gives you some of that human feel, some of that mojo that doesn't make it sound like it's an actual computer playing your drums. So I'm going to put this away for right now. Okay, I've got the Atlantis kit loaded in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up some grooves from Groove Monkey and Odd Grooves, and I'm going to actually build a song, well, just real quick, here inside of Sonar. I'm going to pull up my track here, MIDI drums MIDI data, and this is just a MIDI track that loads up with my plugin when I open my preset. And I'm going to go here to Media, and I'm going to go into my MIDI drum library, and this is all configured by me through Sonar. Let me pull up Groove Monkey Metal. So I can pull up, let's find one here, Heavy 150. So now I can pull up let me find a nice loop here. No, I don't want that one. No, let's do, no. No, let's try. Yeah, right there. All right, let's do that one. So I'll just drag it out here onto the timeline. I'll like right here, and bam, it's right there. Now I can literally just go and grab more clips and drag them to the timeline. I mean, let me grab another one. So now if I play the project, let me back this up a teeny bit. There we go. I'm going to turn the metronome off. We know it's going to be in time. Metronomes are good to record with just because you'll stay in time. But when you're playing with a plugin, I mean, it knows 4/4 or whatever time you've got programmed into your DAW. So. All right, so now let's look at maybe a quick fill. Nah. No. How about this one? No. All right. Let's try this one. Okay, so now we got cool. Now, something else you can do, and this will vary depending on the DAW that you're using. In Sonar, I can actually, whoops, here we go. Click these, highlight them, and I can pull up a little menu here, and I can put Groove Clip Looping. Okay. Uh-oh, didn't do it. No. Back up. I forgot a step. Okay, you're going to want to bounce this to a clip, which basically creates one seamless MIDI clip. Instead of being like one measure each, it's one 3-measure clip. So now you listen back to it. Cool. Now I can go back in, right-click it, go to Groove Clip Looping, okay? And I think most DAWs will probably have some sort of feature similar to this. So now I basically told Sonar, okay, this little 3-measure piece I like, and I'm going to loop it. So now what I can essentially do is I can grab it and drag it as far as I want, and there it is. It just repeats itself infinitely as far as I drag it out. And then it just repeats. Cool. So yeah, and so like Groove Monkey's got, I mean, a whole ton of different. I've got a metal one here, one of their progressive, one of rock. Let's see, and then I got some that I downloaded free from Stephen Slate's website. I guess they had for registered users. And then for odd grooves, I've got the let's see here, the shredder pack. So let's go in and let me back that out. Let me pull up some of the oops. Oh, 7.4, I don't want 7.4. Alright, let's do this. Dang, I got some fired up. So let's go ahead and actually work a little bit here. Let's do an intro. think I like the first one better. Let me put an intro out here. There you go. And then after that, listen to it over here. Alright, so now let's do a double tempo starting off. Let me do a half tempo. Here we go. Double tempo. Here we go. Right here. Half tempo. Open. Now another thing I should point out too: when you're dragging MIDI clips or whatever onto your timeline, went too far. You want to make sure your DW should have this. You're going to want to have a snap to, and Sonar it's up here. And if I want to turn Smart off, the Smart Snap, I can turn it off. But I've got it set on, and you can set up what your snap to tempo. I mean your snap to denomination is. So if you want to, for like messing with MIDI Groove clips and stuff like that, usually they're in like a whole measure, or like 2 measures, or 8 measures, or 16 measures, or whatever it is, depending on who you buy it from. I would set it to a full measure, so like a whole note. So it'd be 4 beats. So if you accidentally aim wrong when you're dropping it on your thing, it automatically quantize it or place it in the right spot where it should be. It'll automatically glue it to the right, to the beginning of a measure, essentially. If you put it to an 8th note and you're just off a little bit from the first beat, and you're just behind it a little bit, you may actually place it on the 3rd and 1/2 beat of the previous measure. Then when you actually then line everything up, you're going to have that drum clip is going to start too soon before the other one before it finishes, and then everything else after that's going to be a jumbled mess. Especially then if you're trying to track guitars to it later or whatever, it doesn't work. So anyway, so I kind of gave you a little bit overview of some of the clips from Odd Grooves and some from Groove Monkey, and a more in-depth look at Steven Slate drums. And basically, I mean, that's what I'm going to do for the Atlantis suite. You literally could just groove clip loop it or whatever and just drag it all the way to the end of the song. And quite honestly, it's going to sound repetitive. It's going to sound like it was just dragged all the way to the end of the song. So what I'll end up doing is I'll bring one clip out, and I'll put in another clip of a similar, of a similar part. So, for example, like you've got this one here. Well, no, that's a bad one. Let's do for toms, okay? Then you have another one, which is this one, which is similar, but it's different. So they'll probably both fit in the same area, but there are variations of one to the other. So you've got some variation in the way it was played. So then it won't sound as repetitive. It won't sound like you dragged it out or whatever. It'll sound a bit more humanistic type of thing. So I'll probably take a few clips, put them side by side. And quite honestly, not all the drum libraries, all the MIDI Groove libraries are going to have every fill you could possibly imagine that you would really like. So you might have to go into your piano editor or whatever and kind of pencil in and draw out, or if you've got like a MIDI keyboard, you could do that, on a keyboard and just tap it into the keyboard, kind of the drum, the fill that you hear in your head. So you can do it that way too. And I will do that for some of the fills because I don't have those fills in my library, and I'm hearing a certain fill in my head for a particular song, and so I'm going to want to do it manually, either through the piano roll editor in Sonar or with a keyboard, or I've actually got an old MPD 16. It's got little drum pads on it, and I'll probably use that. Then it's just a matter of just piecing it together and listen back to it and be critical of yourself as you're doing this, because again, you don't want it to sound repetitive. You don't want it to sound like a drum machine. You want it to sound like an actual drummer played it. And quite honestly, drummers actually did play these grooves, and they're not quantized, so there's going to be variations. They're not exactly perfectly on the 16th note or exactly on the 8th note. There's a little bit of variation in there. Some of them drag a little behind, some a little in front. And with Stephen Slate Drums, you adjust your dynamics knob to get variations of some on the timing, but more so on the velocities of the actual which drum, how hard the drum was hit each time. So it's not always the same hit every over and over again. It'll sound humanistic, or if that's even a word. So anyway, that's what I had for. I mean, it's kind of a long video, but I think I kind of gave you a lot of juicy information on doing the drums for your projects. And I think Stephen Slate Drums actually has a lower entry level program. I want to say it's like $30 or $40. Forget the name of it off the top of my head. But I mean, they've got that one that starts off, and I think it has one drum set, so you don't have a lot of options really. But I mean, you load that one drum, bring it into your software. You can route it all to the different channels, and then put your effects on it. If you got Waves or Universal Audio. Then again, if you got one of those plugins, you probably could have spent more than $30 or $40 on a drum plugin. But I mean, whatever the case may be. So then just run your effects or whichever, and you're good to go. So thanks guys for stopping by. Sorry it took so long, but again, I hope you got some great good information on this video. And rock on. Stay tuned for more. I got demos coming up, and I think we'll be tracking guitars soon too, so please stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button down below. Give me a like if you would. Favorite if you'd like. I mean, heck, make my day, right? Rock on. Thanks a bunch for stopping by, guys. Rock on. Catch you later.